There's no guns in the car? Any knives? No. Like, oh, man, your hands are shaking like a leaf, brother. Even your face is. I just like people to be honest and straight up with me. Right? Do you have your driver's license? I paid for reinstatement. Yes, sir. Is it? Absolutely. I don't have. Yeah, you're working now, but I got you. Man, do you put your hands on the steering wheel for me? I appreciate it. Before I exit the vehicle, do you have any weapons on you? Any guns? Awesome, man. Cool, man. Hey, I'm gonna get him out. I'm gonna get Dad out, and we're gonna go to the back, and we'll get you out here in a second, okay? It's pretty cute. You want for me? It's pretty cute. Oh, yes, I think. I'm sorry, we're just gonna come back to the rear of the car.
While one officer talks to Mr. Parker, another officer removes Ms. Furman from the vehicle, pats her down without asking for her consent, and questions her. As we have discussed many times on ATA, the Supreme Court held in the 1977 case of Pennsylvania versus Mims that, quote, once a motor vehicle has been lawfully detained for a traffic violation, the police officers may order the driver to get out of the vehicle without violating the Fourth Amendment's prescription of unreasonable searches and seizures. Although the reasoning for granting this authority centers around so-called officer safety, officers are permitted to routinely remove both drivers and passengers from vehicles, regardless of whether they actually have any reason to be concerned for their safety. This means that even if the stop itself was lawful, the officer would not be able to constitutionally justify the pat-down frisk he conducted on Ms. Furman. Despite the lack of clarity as to whether Mr. Parker consented to a search of the vehicle, the officer searched the entire car and the objects inside of it, including Ms. Furman's purse, without asking Ms. Furman, as the owner of the vehicle, for consent.
I got to double push my hazard. A lot of the money probably like that, man. I got to double push the hazard. Like sometimes it'll work. You know, you get to hit it like normal. But then sometimes I got double push the hazard for the quicker to even come in. So that's probably what happened. Like I didn't know I could use it. I used it, but I didn't know. You're good? Yeah. Sweet. All right, man. I'm not gonna harp on that OL or nothing like that. Appreciate it. No problem, man. You guys are good to go?
After thoroughly searching the vehicle and finding nothing illegal, the officers allowed Mr. Parker, Ms. Furman, and Mr. Parker's son to leave without issuing a citation. On August 7th, 2019, Mr. Parker and Ms. Furman filed a federal lawsuit against the officers, as well as the chief of the Louisville Metro Police Department and the head of the 9th Mobile Division. In the complaint, Mr. Parker and Ms. Furman's attorneys, who also represented Breonna Taylor's family, alleged that the 9th Mobile Division regularly engaged in deceptive and unconstitutional practices during traffic stops. For instance, the complaint stated that the officers conducted traffic stops in a manner designed to intimidate and trick the vehicle occupants to obtain their consent for searches and detentions by conducting stops with several officers in unmarked vehicles, boxing in the suspects' vehicles, surrounding the vehicle with several officers, accusing the vehicle occupants of appearing to have something to hide, and using quick double negatives to trick occupants into consenting to searches. September 9th, 2021, the city agreed to the $75,000 settlement that allowed the Metro government to acknowledge no wrongdoing and prohibited Mr. Parker, Ms. Furman, and their lawyers from criticizing the Louisville Metro government or the police officers involved in the incident. Overall, the Louisville Metro officers get an F for fabricating an excuse to conduct an illegal traffic stop. I do not know what was going through Mr. Parker's head during this traffic stop, but I would imagine that he chose to consent to the officer's request at least in part out of concern for the well-being of his family. And I certainly cannot fault him for prioritizing his loved one's safety over his constitutional rights. I commend Mr. Parker for remaining calm and collected throughout the encounter and for following up this interaction with the proper legal action.
I wasn't drinking anything, just smell it.
So in that instance, this guy walked away with his life. He was able to go back, and I think it's the modern day reparations. Sue these people who are violating your rights. Why not? If it's a war on black men, how are we fighting? What can we do to fight? What's something that everybody can do starting now if they want to pick up the fight against black men, the war on black men or black women, black people, period? In order to fight, you have to know who your enemy is. Not every battle has to be fought the same way. You need to use knowledge. In order to fight, You cannot be angry and wanting to be all big, puff your chest up, trying to go to blows with these people who are not operating in a capacity to even try to help. What they're doing is warfare on black people. It is not necessarily something that you can just say, oh, it only happens to certain, no, or in certain areas, no. It's so much more to this issue that's going on with our people that meets the eye. There's more to it than just what you see or what you can say, oh, you know what, I never experienced that, so it doesn't happen. That's not something I have ever seen happen, so oh, that's not happening. How is it that we can have people think that when you are outside or in any public area that there are some people who have free reign on your body? They can lock you up. They can pull you up. They can just pull you out of the car. They can do all of that if they want to. How terrorizing is that? How menacing is that, to have that ideology, to think like that, that someone can just snatch you out of your car and you have no legal recourse. You have nothing you can say. Because what? How? Why is that something we could say is okay? And these people who don't know the law.
Man, let me talk to you a second. Hang on.
Let's go back.
Hey man, let me talk to you a second. Hang on. Hold on. Stop walking. Let me talk to you a second, man. Okay. Hey, what's going on tonight?
I got nothing to do with y'all, sir.
Hang on.
Hey, straight up. One time, put your hands on your back. At this point, you are not in any trouble. You understand? But we're being told by multiple people that you were involved in all this. That these dudes were shooting at you. Is that the truth? You ain't got nothing to say to me. I'm a little bit. I'm a homeowner. That's my home right there. That's my rental property right on the corner.
Okay. Well, all you had to do was talk to us a little.
I have to talk to y'all.
So you say you don't know nothing about nothing. You ain't got nothing.
No questions, bro. I'm not answering.
No street side interrogation. Know your rights. Know how to invoke them, so you don't look like this guy.
Jesus said he was part of it. What do you think? Thank you.
Just so you know, your skin tone enough.
As of right now, he's under arrest for obstruction.
Despite the fact that the officers wanted to talk to Mr. James as a potential witness and victim, they placed him in handcuffs, took his wallet and searched through it, and placed him under arrest for obstruction when he refused to answer any questions. And although the officers were authorized to ask questions and request his cooperation, the court would likely conclude that he could not be arrested for refusing to assist the officers in their investigation.
Hey, Randy, I'll do the report on this. This is Ashley. We just need to get her information. She's the one that said he was the victim being shot at. He's in there. I just need your name and stuff.
Oh, I seen him run.
Yeah. Well, that gives us the reason to have a conversation with you. So I just need your name just so he's not going to know that. I just need your name.
I'm not worried about what he knows. My kids, they shooting at my house. 220 at the corner.
So what did you see?
Well, I was sitting in my window right here about in the living room window, and I was on the phone with her. I had my blinds up. All I seen was blue Grand Marquis speeder outward.
Coming out of the
apartment.
And just so you know, they will definitely use people who have no idea of the law as a witness. Oh, you saw him, right? You saw him. No, you heard what she said.
Run that way, but the shots was already going on. I just made sure my kids was down there.
You heard shooting?
Yeah, he was running this way.
And he ran
across these people's yard.
Did the car look like it was after him?
Yeah.
But which way did they turn?
They turned this way.
They come up right behind him.
Yeah.
And then
he ran across his yard and over there in his place.
Witness Ashley Clark claims she saw Mr. James running away from the scene of the incident and that it looked like the vehicle was chasing him, making Mr. James a potential victim, but not a potential suspect. Although the officers admitted when they stopped Mr. James that they did not suspect him of any wrongdoing, it is still possible that an Arkansas court would conclude that he could be briefly detained based on the so-called community caretaking concern of identifying and apprehending the criminal suspects. But even if a court determined that Mr. James could be legally detained, it would not create a legal obligation for Mr. James to identify himself or otherwise cooperate with the investigation.
Did he give you his wallet, or did he take his wallet after we detained him?
After we detained him.
We took his wallet.
He took, but he turned and said, "There it is." But he got.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he doesn't want to identify himself. He's trying to walk away when we have a legal reason.
That's when you grabbed him, man. I thought he fixed to run. Yeah, he's had a lot more. I mean, he's hard to deal with at all times. She said he was already up on his porch and all the cops are down doing their thing, and he jumped off his porch and left and went another way. Then he comes right back up to me.
Yeah, to see what's going on. Since they're busy, I'm gonna get you to transport him, do the arrest paperwork. I'll do the narrative stuff on it. Hey, you're talking to the lady in the red shirt from hers?
Yeah, I just got hers. We got the witness that said he info so we can justify why we make contact.
The officers claim that the information they received from Ms. Clark can be used to justify Mr. James's original investigative detention.
Right.
Although reasonable suspicion depends on the objective facts of a situation, courts have consistently concluded that only the facts an officer knew at the time of the detention are relevant to this determination. Therefore, the court would almost certainly conclude that the details Ms. Clark provided to the officers were not relevant to whether the officers violated the Fourth Amendment, because they did not become aware.
It was already, his rights were already violated.
Detained and arrested Mr. James.
You get yourself involved in all that.
Well, this lady here usually gives good info.
He's in the back of the car, yo. Let's get him out of here so we can come back here.
Just ban him. Give me a second. I was moving stuff around.
And they will know, if you don't know your rights, they just going to ban you. They just going to drop you, take you to police station, whatever.
And booked for obstruction. According to Mr. James, the judge that presided over the charge didn't try the case in court, but, quote, placed it under advisement for a year. Mr. James is pursuing a civil lawsuit against the Texarkana.
I hope he wins.
And is being represented by the Hearst Law Group of Hot Springs, Arkansas. Overall, the Texarkana officers get an F.
Definitely get an F.
You're gonna obey me, or you're gonna go on the ground. Obey you.
52-year-old Mark Domino drove his motorcycle to work and parked on the backside of the parking lot. Mr. Domino and his wife both worked at the same retail store in Clarkston, Washington, and his wife drove their car to work and parked on the opposite end of the lot. After Mr. Domino's shift, he went to his car before crossing the parking lot to ride his motorcycle home. As Mr. Domino was looking through his vehicle, a citizen parked nearby, Jody Brunel, noticed him, believed his actions to be suspicious, and called 911.
Police and fire, this is Mallory. Hi, I'm at the Clarkston Walmart right now,
and what they're going to definitely use is white fear. White fear coupled with panic and not understanding what someone else is doing and having that fear of their skin color and thinking of them as a threat. The propaganda in the media that is put on black people is working. So this is what you get.
I just saw a gentleman get in 3 different doors of a car, looking around, and I kind of watched him to see if it was his, and now he's walking clear away. Okay. I couldn't see if he took anything. Okay.
Officer Chris Lures from the Clarkston Police Department arrived shortly after the call and confronted Mr. Domino.
How's it going, man? Officer Lures, Clarkston Police Department. Put your phone down for a second. What do you got in your pocket there? Is that just something hanging off your backpack? What is that, a hanger? What are you doing with that? Is this your bike? It's your bike? You got ID on you?
Why do you need my ID?
Because somebody saw you looking at cars, so I'm here just checking to see what's going on. You got ID on you?
Yeah, I do, but
okay, I'm figuring that out right now. I'll take a look at your ID, though.
You don't need my ID unless I did something. Okay. Unless you're taking me in for something like that.
Turn around and put your hands behind your back right now. Now!
For what?
Turn around and put your hands behind your back. Now!
For what?
Before we get started,
one away, pick it up.
please review the...
You're gonna obey me, or you're gonna go on the ground.
Obey you?
Because I'm giving you a lawful order.
For what?
Turn around and put your hands behind your back.
Did I do anything?
Yes. Turn around and put your hands behind your back.
What did I do?
Do you want to get
Excuse me?
Turn around and put your
what? Do you know I work here?
Turn around and put your hands behind your back.
Do you know I work here? This is my bike.
Okay.
So what did I do for you to approach me and then tell me that put my hands behind my back?
Sir.
What are you arresting me for?
I'm not arresting you. Right now, you're not cooperating with
for
me.
What?
And you're getting agitated.
You asked me for my ID.
Right.
I don't have to give you my ID unless I've done something. What have I done?
Turn around and put your hands behind your back.
For what? Are you arresting me?
I'm detaining you.
Detaining me for what? Why are you detaining?
You're not even listening.
What did I do for you to detain me?
Turn around and put your hands behind your back.
Was there a report that I stole something?
Yes.
There was a report that I stole something.
The Supreme Court has long held that officers may acquire reasonable suspicion through an anonymous tip, so long as the tip provides enough information to justify a stop. Officer Lors made no effort to de-escalate the encounter or engage in a productive dialogue with Mr. Domino, and instead began accusing him of stealing and ordering him to comply.
How many cars did he look at?
Just the one.
Just the one.
Like
one car.
Like my pickup would be
Gray
parked.
Chevy van. It's registered to him. Same as the bike.
Okay. He could have. Here, Officer Lors suggests that Mr. Domino could have explained his actions, but at no point during the initial encounter did Mr. Domino have enough information to know what actions led to him being contacted by the police. Although Officer Lors did say that Mr. Domino was reported for looking at cars, he also said that Mr. Domino was being accused of stealing, which likely confused Mr. Domino. Just 32 seconds passed from the point of initial contact to Officer Lors ordering Mr. Domino to place his hands behind his back. Officer Lors made no attempt to corroborate any of the information from the 911 call and shifted the focus of the stop to Mr. Domino's refusal to identify rather than the alleged crime. At no point did Officer Lors make an attempt to understand Mr. Domino's perspective or offer him the opportunity to explain his actions. But let's compare Officer Lors' recollection of the event to what actually happened.
Just wouldn't talk to him? No, and then he started, he was just super agitated. You got ID on you?
Why do you need my ID?
And I'm like, listen, man, so right now you're being detained. Yeah, I'm figuring that out right now. I'll take a look at your ID, though.
You don't need my ID unless I did something.
But he got all jacked up, and so I'm like, okay, turn around and put your hands behind your back. I'm going to detain you.
Unless you're taking me in for something like that.
Turn around and put your hands behind your back right now. Now, you're going to obey me, or you're going to go on the ground.
Obey you?
As you can see, there is a vast discrepancy between Officer Lors' version of events and what actually took place. Mr. Domino was arrested.
If it wasn't for that body cam, if it wasn't for hashtag film the police, honestly, we would have issues like this day in, day out, and people be getting their rights violated left and right. If he had no understanding of the law, he would have probably ended up getting shot. Who knows? And they would have said, if they didn't have that body cam, he could have shot him and said, he was resisting. He reached for something. I feared for my life. This is what's going on right now. This is what war is being fought right now.
Charged with resisting arrest and obstructing a law enforcement officer, and was released a few hours later. After multiple hearings, the trial began in November of 2019, with Mr. Domino deciding to represent himself. After 2 days in the courtroom, Mr. Domino verbally agreed to a plea deal offered by the prosecution, which stipulated that so long as Mr. Domino stayed out of trouble for the following 3 months, all charges against him would be dropped. Mr. Domino later rejected the deal offered by the prosecution and decided to move forward with the case, along with filing a $5 million tort claim against the city. Overall, Officer Lors gets an F for failing to employ.
I hope he win too.
De-escalation during the encounter.
$5 million. I hope he win on every fucking penny.
And for misrepresenting the circumstances surrounding Mr. Domino's arrest to his fellow officer. Officer Lors made no legitimate effort to find out what happened before accusing Mr. Domino of committing a crime. If Officer Lors had simply walked over to the vehicle to see who it was registered to before demanding identification from Mr. Domino, the escalation could have been avoided. Mr. Domino gets a B-, because although he did physically resist the officers, he made an attempt to exercise his rights and refused
made an
criminal
attempt
case against him by himself with no formal legal training. It is difficult to fault Mr. Domino for his initial resistance to Officer Lors, but Mr. Domino continued to physically resist the officers well after backup had arrived and his arrest was inevitable. 2 City of Brookings police officers stopped 49-year-old Jennifer Gaiman as she traveled home from a night of karaoke with her friends in Brookings, Oregon. Ms. Gaiman, who has been...
Do you know what facility that you stepped into? Absolutely. All right, this is the Georgia Capitol building that housed the senator, the governor.
And look at this motherfucker here.
Like that stated by the OCGA code. You produce it, no question. What about clear? What about my policy about banning you from this building? You would never come back
for asking a question?
Let me see your driver license or your ID.
Am I?
So I can scan it before you come across.
Well, the thing is, I don't have it with me, sir. Okay. That's why I'm asking you.
Stand over here. Stand over here right now.
No, but
sir, I'm telling you right now, I'm giving you an order.
Have I broken the law?
Yes, you are. Breaking it right now. You are on state building. Okay. Keep over this line right now. Crossing it with that ID.
I'm not crossing. I'm right here.
Right here.
Okay, but so you have to be nice. You don't have to talk to me like I'm a criminal. I'm not a criminal. Why are you treating me like that?
Because you're not listening. When I tell you to do something, you don't question it. Move.
Sir, what about our rights?
You don't have the right to walk in the building.
Yeah, we do.
But listen, without following the rules.
Well, the thing is, I already checked the rules, sir.
No, you didn't.
I don't mean to be rude to you in any way, officer, but I've been to at least 30 state capitol buildings in the past, and this is the first one that I get.
We take it seriously.
What about the Fourth Amendment? Do you take it seriously?
Yes, we do. As long as I'm working the station right here, I'm going to need some passports, identification, and so forth.
Trooper Frazier claims that it is against Georgia law to enter the state capitol building without identification. According to the state capitol's website, the Georgia Capitol is open to the public Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And, quote, all adults aged 18 and older must show a photo ID upon entering the Capitol. The website also notes that, quote, in compliance with security regulations, visitors must enter the Capitol through a metal detector. The X-ray machine must examine hand-carried items. Here, it appears that Trooper Frazier is a member of the Georgia Capitol Police Division who has been tasked with controlling access to the state Capitol building. While there is no specific statute that requires an individual to show identification to enter the Capitol building, there is clearly an established security procedure that requires visitors to provide their identification. But based on Georgia law alone, it is likely that a court would conclude Trooper Frazier had the authority to require the auditors to show identification to enter the state capitol and to deny them entry when they refuse to do so.
You take that sector up. So this is all about, are you trying to...
We're trying to walk freely.
No. I didn't know, because you're important. You come over here. Okay, I give you instructions. Don't question the instructions. You do what you told to do.
We have the right to question.
Right now, I'm about to have some people come in. I'm going to need you to step to the side.
Sure. You know, here.
Now, you see how easy I can do that? Just wait on the proper person that come here.
No problem. Because I would love to show them the way that you greeted us.
That's fine.
And by the way, sir, there's...
Stop talking to me.
No, sir, that's not how it works. We were nothing but courteous and professional as soon as we got here, and he said, you do not question my authority. We're just waiting for a supervisor. Is he coming?
Right, but you got to step out.
You know what I'm gonna do? You know why I'm gonna step over there? Because don't you touch me.
Come on.
Okay, but don't you touch me.
Trooper Frazier orders the auditors to step outside the security entrance. And when they ask, he claims it is a, quote, lawful order. Section 50-16-14 of the Georgia Code authorizes certified law enforcement officers of the Department of Public Safety to deny entrance to the Capitol building to an individual who has the potential to violate the security of building personnel.
Sir, with all due respect, you're a dangerous one. By the way, we have
million
views on the internet.
You are a dangerous one, bro.
Hi, gentlemen. How are you? Good. So we were trying to get in to the State House, and my friend doesn't have an ID. The gentleman started barking orders at us, so we just politely asked for a supervisor. Don't our Fourth Amendment rights trump any policy? Doesn't your oath to the Constitution to uphold our
So you
sacred
don't
oath?
think that you could be searched to enter a government building?
Well, search a people's building. It's just like any other building. I mean, if I go to your, that's different.
Enter this building, you have to show an identification. Okay? If you do not have an identification, you cannot enter the building. If you provide them a name and date of birth and they're able to positively ID you as who you say you are, then we allow you to enter. Okay? So that's it.
The last thing I would say to you, sir, and with the utmost respect, not only the Fourth Amendment, but the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution gives us the right.
I understand what you said.
When you graduated,
I know what you said. If you want to enter the building, you can show an ID. If you don't want to enter the building, you're not going to be allowed.
All right. Well,
okay, but can you at least answer what he said?
The auditors claim that the Fourth Amendment and the so-called Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution both require the sergeant to disobey the policy requiring individuals to identify themselves in order to enter the Capitol building. The Supremacy Clause is found in Article 6, Paragraph 2 of the U.S. Constitution and states that, quote, "This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding." In general, this clause means that the federal Constitution and other federal laws take precedence over state laws. It is likely that a court would conclude that the requirement that an individual show identification as part of a security screening process to be granted entry to the Georgia Capitol building does not violate the Fourth Amendment, and therefore the Supremacy Clause would not cause the policy to be supplanted by the Constitution.
If you want to enter the building, show an ID. If you don't, you can walk away.
All right,
Last
question for my friend.
I'm
Just last question. Do you know what the Third Amendment is?
After their conversation with the sergeants, the auditors decided to identify themselves in order to be admitted to the Capitol building and return to the security desk. After they provided their information to Trooper Frazier and he completed his security checks, he advised the auditors that they were free to enter the building. It is unclear whether the auditors intend to take any further action regarding the incident. Overall, Trooper Frazier gets a C.
Yeah, buddy. So listen, what I'm pretty much getting at is it's not just up to them if they are going to violate your rights. It's up to you to know that your rights are being violated. If you want to pick up this fight, war against black people, you got to understand you are already outside of the Constitution when you claiming black, claiming color. So knowing your rights is your responsibility. If you really think that it's a war against black men, learn how to fight. Learn what's going on in order to figure out how are they fighting against us. What is something that we can do in order to combat them? If not, then what's going to keep happening and continually does happen is people get their rights violated. They end up in jail, and which is the new slavery system, and they end up being bitter towards the whole system. That's not necessarily what the issue is. It's not about, how white their skin is or what color yours is, because this is happening to whoever doesn't know their rights. Anyone who doesn't learn about their history is doomed to repeat it. And so what's been happening, what's going to continue to happen is there's going to be people who tell you one thing and do another. It's going to be people who are in this system being used, and in order for it to change, you have to cost them. You have to sue those who violate your right. Only way for it to change is for you to change. Be the change that you want to see. And that's it. That's all I was going to say. I mean, that's my time. Hope y'all check the video out. I don't see too many people trying to pop up on the stream, so I'm going to just end it there. Please like, share, subscribe. All right, boom, boom, bam. Oh, I think that was pretty good.
From all suffering. From all suffering. Yes. Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you so much.